The Oscars. Do you remember a time where the Oscars were actually exciting? Let's talk about it. Hello everyone! Welcome to my movie talk video about the Oscar winners of the 2010s. Yes, this time I'm gonna do a movie talk video. These are my kind of videos in which I'm not gonna do a ranking of movies from worst to my favorite, or gonna talk about the director's filmography, or give a review of one single movie. No, in these kind of videos I wanna talk more about a specific topic or a specific selection of similar movies that I wanna talk about more. I want to talk about that topic specifically, give my thoughts, my opinions about that specific group of movies. And for my first movie talk video, I want to focus on the Oscars. You know, the Oscars, that yearly event in which the best movies or the supposedly best movies of that year are given awards. They are mostly given a golden statue of a naked man. And yes, that event. And there was a time that I was really excited for the Oscars. I was really following movies and the Oscars at a very young age. The first Oscar ceremony I watched was the one from 2008, which the No Country for Old Men won Best Picture. And back then I was like 10 or 11 years old, so at a very young age I was already interested in the Oscars. And every year I was really excited for the new show, the new nominees, and I really wanted to check all the nominations in the cinemas and give my thoughts on it and make my predictions from this movie's gonna win, these are gonna win that category. So that was a very exciting time. And I'm specifically talking about the 2010s. I think that was a great time for the Oscars, in my opinion at least. I was really following the Oscars back then. And if you look at the nominations from every year in that period, those were some good movies. Cannot really say the same about these last editions of the 2020s. I don't know, just don't feel the same anymore, and the movies that got nominated are not always good movies. There are just like one or two movies that I really like and the rest is just mediocre at best. So the exciting times for me at the Oscars are over. But let's look back at those time of the 2010s. What I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna talk about every year starting from 2010 and I will end with 2019, and I will talk about which movie did win the Oscar and do I agree with it or do I not agree with it, and if I do not agree with this Oscar winner, what other nominated movie should have won in my opinion. So that is this video about. So let's start with 2010. I have a confession to make, because I'm gonna talk about the Oscar winners of the 2010s, but this first Oscar winner, The King's Speech, is the only Oscar winner movie in this video I haven't seen yet. And I really wanted to see this movie in these past few years, but it never happened. And also, The King's Speech is not really that kind of movie that appeals to me. That it's not that kind of movie that I really wanted to see. It's not really my kind of movie. Still, I know what the movie is about. I have seen some clips, some scenes, and what I have seen from the movie, it's actually good. Still, do I think it should deserve Best Picture winner? Well, it's not really easy to say because I have not seen the movie, but that's also a thing. Because I have not seen the movie, because I'm not really that interested in the movie, is it therefore a good Oscar winner? Is it really that memorable of an Oscar winner? For me, The King's Speech always felt as a safe choice to give the Oscar to. Because if you look at the nominations from 2010, there were some great movies that year. Like Inception, Inception should have easily won the Oscar because for most people it's the best movie of the year, maybe even the decade. But then we also have a movie like The Social Network, and I really believe that The Social Network should have won the Oscar back then. Because The Social Network is one of the best made movies ever, in my opinion. This movie is great, it's a really perfect movie if you ask me. And the themes, it's about the invention of Facebook. It's a theme, a topic that is still relevant today. But it's also about success, about friendship, and these are topics that are really fascinating to see in movies. But I would actually give the Oscar that year to The Fighter. The Fighter is easily my favorite movie from these nominations. It's my kind of drama movie, my kind of sports movie. I really enjoy watching this movie, and if I'm in mood for a good sports movie, boxing movie, or a drama movie, The Fighter is easily one of those movies I go for. So for me, The Fighter should have won the Oscar in 2010. 2011 also has a safe pick in my opinion, with The Artist. In this movie I saw back then, and I was not really impressed by it. For me it was a boring movie. It's a movie about the silent era of film, and it's interesting, but I don't know. Usually I like to see this kind of movies about movies, but The Artist didn't work for me, so I was really surprised that this won Best Picture back then. I was really rooting for Moneyball. Moneyball, another sports movie with Brad Pitt. That was a really fascinating movie, gives you really insight about the whole sport management area of baseball, which is very interesting. Very well written movie, very cool, good acted by Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. Moneyball is definitely one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite sports movies. But 3 years ago I saw The Tree of Life, a film by Terrence Malick, and this movie is so unique, so well crafted. It's a fascinating movie. It's about life, it's about this family in the 50s and how they are dealing with life, and Terrence Malick really made it a fascinating movie to watch, and I think that The Tree of Life should have won Best Picture in 2011. The Oscar for Best Picture in 2012 went for Argo, which is a Ben Affleck directed movie, also starring Ben Affleck. And for me, Argo is a good movie. A movie that I can watch from time to time. And I think it's an okay Oscar winner. But I think 2012 had 2 other nominations that were greater in my opinion. Back then, in 2012, I was really rooting for Django Unchained, the Quentin Tarantino film. Big fan of Django Unchained, still am, still one of my favorite movies, but back then I was really into Django Unchained. Great western movie, violent western movie, and I think at a young age, like I was 12 or 13 years old, and I really saw the craftsmanship of Django Unchained, and it was so impressive to watch. So I always thought Django Unchained should have won the Oscar. But there is also Zero Dark 30, a film by Catherine Bigelow, also definitely a cool Oscar winner. That was a really cool movie, is a bit of a strange word, but a fascinating movie, interesting movie, and a very well made movie. It's not always easy watch this movie, but it's definitely a good movie, and it should have won the Oscar. The winner of 2013 was 12 Years a Slave. And I have to agree that this is the well-deserving Oscar winner of this year. The other movie that I considered for the Oscar win is The Wolf of Wall Street. And while that movie is the more rewatchable movie, the more fun movie, 12 Years a Slave is definitely the more important movie. Not the most easiest watched, but it's definitely a must watch movie and a deserving Oscar winner. The Oscar for Best Picture in 2014 is for Birdman. And this time I actually agree with the Oscar winner. I think Birdman is definitely one of the best movies of 2014. And it's such a fascinating movie, and I really believe that Birdman is a unique movie. It's a very special movie. It's about this actor who once was this superhero actor, but then his career got yeah, he basically is at the end of his career. He doesn't get roles, and then he goes to theater. But it's just the way this movie is filmed. It's focused. The movie is actually one big long take, and that's very interesting. I think Iñárritu really directed this movie to perfection, and because it's so unique, it definitely should have won the Oscar. So I agree with this here. Though Whiplash and Boyhood are also great movies from 2014. Spotlight won in 2015, and back then I was not really happy with this winner because I was really rooting for The Revenant. Because I saw The Revenant in theaters and I was amazed by it. I was stunned by how beautiful this movie looked, and I really respect how they made this movie because the whole production of this movie, that wasn't easy. In those cold conditions, it's really a respect to make a movie in those conditions. So I was really a bit disappointed that The Revenant didn't took that golden statute. But after some years, I actually appreciate Spotlight more now, and because Spotlight is such an important movie, it has an important story to tell about that scandal, and it's still relevant today. So it's maybe not the most rewatchable movie or the easiest to watch, but because of the relevance and the importance of the story, Spotlight definitely deserved the Oscar win. 2016 was a bit of a mess at the Oscars. Yeah, there was that whole mistake of the wrong Oscar winner. First they announced that La La Land was the Oscar winner for Best Picture, but then it turned out that it was actually Moonlight. And I actually am glad that it is Moonlight winning the Oscar for Best Picture and not La La Land. I know there are a lot of fans for La La Land. It's a good musical movie. I'm just not really big on the movie. It's good enough for me. But Moonlight was definitely a stunning movie. It was a fascinating movie, story-wise and visually. Like, it was very unique to tell a story in three separate parts of someone's life. We are really focusing on this character, and we see him as a kid, as a teenager, and as a adult in his 20s, maybe 30s, I guess. And that was really nice to see this character grow up, and also the way this director made this movie look like. It was just a really beautiful movie. And little story with Moonlight. When I first saw Moonlight, I was still at college studying political science. That was my first year, but things were not going that well for me in political science, and I was really doubting, should I still do this direction? Because why I'm actually doing political science? And then I saw Moonlight. And I was so stunned by Moonlight on the whole process of filmmaking, or how they made this movie, story-wise, how they make this movie look like. It was just a fascinating experience for me. And because of this movie, I was almost certain that I was gonna quit political science and go to a more film-related course at college. So I did. Not saying it's the main reason, but it definitely contributed to my decision. 2017 saw a very special winner with The Shape of Water. They gave the Oscar to a movie about a romantic relationship between a deaf woman and a fish creature. very interesting. But seeing at the other nominees, it's not really any movie that I think this should deserve this Oscar more than The Shape of Water. So The Shape of Water is definitely the best choice to give the Oscar between the nominations, and it's actually a cool movie. Of all these nominated movies, The Shape of Water is actually the movie we watch the most, so in that aspect it really deserves the Oscar. But I have to say, they also should have nominated War for the Planet of the Apes and Logan. Those two movies were very great and should have at least had a nomination. Green Book won in 2018. And when I saw this award show back in 2018, I was actually happy that Green Book won, because Green Book is actually a very pleasant movie to watch. It's a very fun movie about friendship, about all kind of topics, so I was actually happy that Green Book won. But now, looking back at it, I actually think there is another movie from the nominations that should deserve this Oscar way more, and that is A Star is Born. Yes, I really like this movie. I think this is a great remake. I think Bradley Cooper, for his first movie as a director, really did a fantastic job, and A Star is Born, sometimes a bit slow, but it really is a movie with a heart, and it really did something with me. So A Star is Born it's really a movie that I like, so for me this should have won the Oscar. And the last Oscar winner of the 2010s for 2019 was a surprise, with Parasite. A South Korean movie won Best Picture. This South Korean movie actually made history at the Oscars, and it's actually an Oscar winner I am fine with. It deserves the Oscar for its own reasons. Would I have given the Oscar to Parasite? No, not really. I have two other favorites from that year, my two favorite movies of that year actually, and that's Ford v Ferrari and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Love both movies. So I do not really know which movie deserved the Oscar more. I would give the Oscar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for Quentin Tarantino to give him a prize for his whole career, because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is actually one of his best made movies. Not my favorite of his, but one of his best made. But then we have Ford v Ferrari. If this were the 60s, Ford v Ferrari would have won the Oscar. And Ford v Ferrari, my favorite movie of 2019, is just an amazing movie about racing, about his father-son relationship, about competition between Ford and Ferrari. So I would have been happy with either of these two winning the Oscar, so I'm gonna keep it at an ex aequo for this year. So guys, this was my talk about the Oscar winners of the 2010s. I believe I agree with 5 winners, and I would have seen 5 different winners for the other years. So this was my talk about this topic. Hope you enjoyed this video. Always be free to share your opinions, your thoughts about these Oscar winners. Which years did you agree with, or what other movie would you have liked to see winning this Oscar for Best Picture? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more videos of me in the future, always be free to subscribe to my channel. Until the next time.